As we look further at the subject of women in ministry, I want us to look at the prophetess. This is a ministry that God has said these women have. In Exodus chapter 15, verse 20, Miriam, the sister of Moses and Aaron, is called by the Bible a prophetess. The Bible doesn't say, but she shouldn't have been, or that should have been her brother, or no, she is called in Exodus 15:20, Miriam the prophetess, Aaron's sister. Okay, so in the Old Testament, prophets were leaders. Someone that people looked to get direction, to get a word from the Lord so they could hear from God. So Miriam was a prophetess. She was a leader among the people of Israel. And yet, something really interesting that we see in Numbers chapter 12, when she criticized Moses, she became leprous. So sometimes I see today women who call themselves a prophetess, and they say, don't disagree with me because I am a prophetess. Well, you know what? You can disagree with anybody you want to if you have the authority of the Word of God on your side. A prophetess, yes, it's a leadership position, but it's not untouchable. So we need to remember that. The next prophetess we find in the Old Testament is Huldah, and her story is in 2 Kings. This is the story of when the people had not had the Word of God for a long time. They weren't reading the Bible. And one day, the Bible, scriptures, were found in the palace. And the king and his advisors were like, what do we do with this? And they started reading it and were, oh, this tells us about God. But they didn't know how to understand it. So the king sent 5 envoys, 5 men, to go to Huldah, the prophetess, and say, can you interpret for us? What does the Word of God say? So Huldah was a prophetess. She heard from God. Now, Huldah was a married woman. Her husband held a secular job there in the 2nd district of Jerusalem. But Huldah spoke to these men and said, this is what the Word of God says. And the king and the whole country acted on her word. And she said, according to everything written in the book of the king of Judah has read. In other words, her message was according to the Word of God. Now, whether you're listening to a male or female teacher of the Word of God, whether you're listening to a male or female prophet, make sure that what they speak is according to the Word of God, or else don't listen to it. Don't listen if the prophetess is going to say, the Lord said you're supposed to give me $100. No, according to the Word of God. Now, there were male prophets in Jerusalem at the time that Huldah was there, and you might be familiar with them. There was Jeremiah and there was Zephaniah. And yet nobody is questioning, well, why did they go to Huldah and not to one of these other men? Nobody questions it, and nobody questions her ability to hear from the Lord. So ladies, is there such a thing as women in ministry? God says so, so we say so too.